step back in his blocking. As far as his landmarks and a little bit more detail is what we're focusing on with him this spring. Hopefully it's going to carry over until the fall. But, I was really impressed with his ability to understand what's going on in the passing game and being able to run routes at precision as far as landmarks, being able to get down the field quick. It didn't equate to him getting the ball all the time, but for the most part, I thought he improved immensely from last year.
What have you seen from Travis in practice last year and early spring now, just in the workout room?
He's strong. He's probably up to about 260, so he's gained a little bit of weight, but he also moves well with it. All the strength coaches just rave about him, his work ethic, which gives me really now a guy like him and Jack being able to bring guys like Austin Allen along and Kurt Raftall along as far as in the weight room, how much passion those guys bring to the weight room. Jack does it with everything he does, and Travis we've seen him really develop into that guy that's going to lead and bring guys along with him. Austin Allen has done a good job in that aspect of things, but because of those guys' physical nature and how hard they work, it's really been great for all the guys on offense.
There are only a handful of position groups, I think, where Scott said he felt really good, and tight end is one of them. Have you been on a lot of football teams? How often is a tight end group, one of the more senior laden or veteran laden groups that can kind of help it? Is that odd to you?
Yeah, that doesn't happen there, all the time.
Right.
Obviously, we've been blessed here. To have some great tight ends before these guys, but these guys have really continued with the tradition. The guys that we have that were here before Travis have really developed and created a nice little bond and given us some depth there. Obviously, with Travis being an addition, that's just going to basically bolster our room a little bit more. Obviously, we have to do some things to make sure we get those guys on the field more, a little bit more two tight ends and possibly three tight end packages just down the road. So all those things, Coach Lubick and I and Coach Frost have sat down and tried to come up with some things there. And whether we show some up this spring, I don't know if we're going to get to it, but there are some opportunities there for getting those guys, multiple guys on the field.
Yeah. I know that sometimes you like to mess with might not be the right, but you'll throw in Raftall at the one to kind of see how he does. So what do you, in terms of Jack and Travis, I imagine they're kind of 1 and 2. How do you determine who the starter is? Does it matter since there's two tight end sets? Like, how will you kind of decide, first play in the fall that's one guy over the other?
Well, we have a long way to go. Spring,
yeah.
Right now, it's been the guys that's been here really.
Sure.
More or less Jack, Austin, Kurt, and then Travis. I do mix and change those guys around a lot, which keeps everybody in flow of practice and also participating with the quarterbacks in the first group with the offensive tackles. And that's big. A lot of people don't realize that the continuity that you have with the quarterback and also with the offensive tackles, there's a lot of communication that goes into play. So you want to make sure those guys are getting the same communication with the ones, twos, and sometimes threes, depending on how deep we are at the offensive line. So there's a lot of different things that goes along there. And in the spring and then also in the fall, I like to try to jumble guys around and give those guys an opportunity to showcase themselves as being a guy that could be a one.
Yeah.
Those guys know that. They know every time we step on the field, there's competition there. In my eyes, all those guys are ones, and those guys participate in practice like that.
How do you feel like the coaching staff has grown or improved in the last 2 years?
I think we, as a staff, we know what Coach Frost wants. That's carried over from UCF. Now we have an addition in our room with Coach Lubick. There are certain things that he does a little bit differently from previous offensive coordinator and receivers coach. So we're adjusting there. We got a chance to spend a lot of quality time with him and Coach Frost and the rest of the staff. Over the last 3 weeks, trying to get a feel of what Coach Lou is going to bring to the table. That's been different from what we've had in the past. It's been great. Obviously, us as a staff, we've been pretty close. Bringing Coach Lubick in, he's done a tremendous job, not stepping on toes, trying to get an idea of what we want to accomplish here and put his little take on certain things, and it's been really, really good. We've all been very receptive to some of the things that we're going to change. He's very well organized in detail. A lot of different things that we've done in the past, we've changed just to try to help, get more production within the offense. So day one today, going out and watching practice, it's probably been the most organized we've been, since we've been together as a staff. So that's a tribute to Coach Frost, wanting to adjust a little bit of his ways, and then also Coach Lewis bringing in, a different view of things of what we need to get done as far as what we need to improve on a daily basis.
You're talking about how everyone's been saying today how organized Matt is with running this offense. Is that more of just a skill that, like organization, does that fall mainly on the offensive coordinator, or is there a lot of organization and detail that you have to work with at your position?
So that's across the board. Obviously, it starts with the head coach being detailed, and then the offensive coordinator setting everything as a whole, and then as an individual position coach, you have to be detailed and trying to make sure your drills are very detailed so those kids can understand exactly what we're trying to get done. As we went through self-scout, obviously, that was one of the things that we need to improve on, the details at every single position. And, being able to set practice, understand what the tempo is, understand what the emphasis is for a day, and then also that particular drill is going to help us play better as a staff and perform at a higher detail. That's across the board: tight ends, receivers, running back, O-line.
So did you make any changes to your own personal work routine or whatnot to help focus more on details?
Well, the thing I've changed is I've slowed things down in our individual teaching. Individual, I was all about reps. Now I'm more, let's get quality reps and more detail. Let's try to be perfect in every single rep that we're doing. And if we didn't do the rep the right way I wanted it, we made sure that got that person back up to reteach it so we can get it detailed up. So as we start moving forward in teams, we're going to get the detail that we want. So I've slowed things down individually and tried to teach more on the fundamentals of details. I've done a little bit more as far as in individuals today of actually showing them, as a soon-to-be 52-year-old, I consider myself a really good route runner as a player. So trying to get those guys to understand the details of setting guys up and trying to keep your shoulders square, I've had to, kind of show a little bit more than I've done in the past. So kids will, enjoy that, and, we're going to continue to move on and get these guys better so they can win games.
You feel like you still got it?
In spurts, I do. But obviously, the knees aren't the same. But I'm still a pretty good athlete.
Is it important to you as a coach to actually just stay in shape, physically?
Yeah, I spend a lot of time trying to. My son's got me on a weight program now, trying to build up a little bit more stamina. Being able to get through, and I've done a lot better job of taking care of my body over the break. Doing more exercise as far as running and conditioning myself. It's a long process. Kids are here. We're trying to get this thing turned in the right direction and keep it moving in the right direction. So, as a staff, we got to continue to work And in order for us to work and do the things that we need to get done, sometimes we have to make changes to our own personal lives to try to get ourselves better so we can have more energy out there on the practice field.
You've been around Scott for quite a few years now, and you've been around a lot of coaches. I'm just curious, we don't get to see him on a day-to-day basis. What is Scott, how has he evolved as a coach maybe in the last 2 or 3 years? What is he doing differently, or just kind of how have you seen him grow, particularly considering that the last 2 seasons maybe haven't gone as great as you would want?
Well, I think he's really done a great job, particularly coming back after Christmas, right before Christmas, coming back after Christmas. He's really done a lot of self-evaluation of himself. And he's encouraged us to do a lot more self-evaluation of ourselves as coaches. And also, he's done more of a self-analysis of what we've done offensively, defensively, and special teams. You can see that in the meetings here in January, leading and also in February, that everything now that we do, there's a purpose towards doing this. Might be a situation where he's done it one way all his life, and now he's at the point where he's listening a little bit more, maybe changing of certain things that we're doing. So, that takes growth, obviously, as a coach. I've been doing it for a long time, and that's one of my qualities. I try to adjust to obviously change, and there's certain things I want to do a little bit differently because I've researched it, and there's some things I've changed, for us the tight ends, and some of the things that we're doing a little bit differently, and looking forward to try to show those guys some of the different things I've learned for being able to sit back and study a little bit more. I watched a lot of NFL cut-ups and throughout the break. Coach Frost did also, and really all of us across the board. He gave us all some things to work on and look at and present to the rest of the staff, and some of those things we're not going to do, a lot of those things we're going to explore. So in those cases, he's really improved as far as a coach, being more of not just bashing certain ideas, maybe looking entertaining, maybe some change.
Is that just him being a young coach, acknowledging the flaws, or have you seen that when you were a young coach? Did you have that same thing that he's going through of just okay, well maybe I actually do need to, you know what I mean? Is that just a young coach thing?
Yeah, I think so. I think as you continue to grow as a coach, as a head coach, and all coaches, I'm soon to be 52 in September. I'm still looking to try and improve on certain things. So, as for him, there's some things I've talked to Coach Frost about personally, that I thought we need to improve on, and him need to improve on, and closed door. That's part of the business, and he respects me for that. He respects all our coaches for that. And some of the things he's implemented, some of them he has not.
Is there a specific part of special teams that you're focusing on at the beginning of spring practice?
Yeah, I'm responsible for punt return, so I have most of the returners. I'm actually obviously on punt return, and then I'm gonna focus in a little bit more on the back end of kickoff return. So obviously we've divvied out a lot more responsibilities there. So I'm looking forward to the challenge of really improving our special teams in the return game, specifically punt return and kickoff return.
What's it been like working with Coach Rutledge so far?
It's been great. Obviously, he hasn't been here but a few weeks, and we're kind of working through some things, and kind of getting a gauge on some of the things that we've done in the past, and some of the things that he may want to suggest. But obviously, we have our deals that we're actually leading, and a lot of it's going to fall on us to make sure we get the details of everything there. But certain ideas that he's brought in, we may look at change and may not. So we'll see.
Who do you like at returner? I mean, who?
Obviously, the usual suspects right now. Wandale. I'm obviously looking at today. Alante Brown. I saw him out there today. Worked with him a little bit today. And Cam Taylor, Cade Warren. I worked with him some back there today. And those guys are pretty natural. I'd like to try to build a little bit more depth there with some other guys. I'm kind of walking around checking to see, but right now if I had to start today, it'd be those 4 guys as a punt return guys that we're working through. We have not done kickoff return yet, but would like to get Ramir Johnson a little bit on kickoff return, and then see what Jamie Nance and Houston can do back then as deep guys on the kickoff return, along with Wandale and Lonte. Lonte Brown has been very impressive for what I saw today.
When you, I think you had mentioned looking at like NFL films and clips or whatever. For you specifically, are you looking at like a team or concepts, or like what specific, like, do you say, hey, just go look at the Chiefs offense and look at this?
Of course, that was one. Obviously, I try to pick the top tight end in the across the NFL this year, and really, looked at some guys as far as the top tight ends across the college. Spent a lot of time on there, seeing what they're doing offensively, what they're doing, trying to get the tight ends the ball. Obviously, the tight end group is really, really a good group going forward. So obviously, we're looking for ideas and technique changes that may help those guys get the ball. And Coach Lubert, I presented some stuff to him, and obviously we got some of those things added to which gives my guys a big smile, and also those guys understand that they can possibly have the ball thrown to them a little bit more. So I gave those guys opportunity this off season when we couldn't really meet with them. There's some guys I cut up, so a lot of those guys paid attention and watched those guys and picked up a couple things here and there. Obviously, Kelsey's one of them, but going across the league, one of my players, Jordan Akins, that I coached in college, it was good to see him. Some of the things that he does that equates to what we've teaching those guys. See a lot of the carryover from when I had him at UCF to him being in the NFL. Jordan Frank, Cincinnati Bengals, same thing. There were certain things I showed those guys on. The techniques that we use here are pretty much the same as what those guys are teaching on the other level. So that gives me a little bit of reassurance. Those guys a little bit of reassurance that we're doing the right things.
How's Jordan doing? Like, did you check in with him occasionally?
Jordan Akins?
Yeah,
I talked to both of them, quite a bit.
Yeah.
So those guys are still using some of the drills that I used in the off season. So I talked to Jordan actually this weekend. Jordan Franks with the Bengals. Looking forward to seeing Coach Walters again.
Chris has been working with the wide receivers.
Thanks,
Do you still meet with him at all, or is he kind of, or some of that transfer over to what you guys do? Or?
Well, he's still meeting with me and the receivers coach. So certain days I'll grab him, or I may grab him for 10, 15 minutes extra, and then maybe send him to the receivers room. So today I took him for a period to do some things tight end wise. So he's got to be that dual guy for us. Certain package that we're looking to put in down the road. Try to get him on the field. To do some things. Obviously, we got 4 really good ones with Jack, Travis, Austin Allen, Kurt Raftal, and Hickman's, in the mix. So we want to try to make sure we have some things for him. So certain things today that's going to come later on in the week. I kind of start working with him on certain things there, just to try to keep him fine-tuned on things.
What are you expecting from Travis Vokolek in spring? As far as what can fans expect when they see him? What kind of players?
They're going to see a big physical kid that can run. So he's still knocking the rust off from last year today. But I expect the fans to really know his name really early, along with the other guys that we have. But he's working extremely hard to clean up some of the things some of the flaws that he had when he was at Rutgers. He's done a tremendous job there. He's night and day from where he was when he first got here, as far as his stance and being able to strike people at the proper landmark, and being able to drive people off the ball, and then also being able to get down the field, as far as in our passing game. So I'm looking forward to continue to work with him and continue working with him to continue to get better.
what's his strength right now? Is it more as kind of an inline run blocker, or is he threat in the pass game, or does he have?
Well, he's naturally gifted in the passing game. To be honest, one of the flaws that he had, as big as he was, is his technique as far as being able to strike and block people. He came to us exclusively in the right-handed stance, so obviously, in order for you to step properly, if you're on the left side, you have to be in the left-handed stance. So he's really, really improved in that area. In order for him to get the strength to block people and take the proper landmark. So he's really improved in that aspect of things, and I think he's really done a good job of continue to improve in the passing game. But the strength has always been, in the passing game. Big, strong kid that can run. Balls in the air, he's going to go up and get it. That hasn't changed. We've detailed a little bit more of his route running ability, but the biggest thing he's improved on is his point of attack, being able to block people up front.
Sean, how important is it that he is now eligible in the sense of pushing Austin and Jack, that they've played the last couple of years, but they might have some time get cut from Travis being on the field?
Well, those guys know. We're a big family in our room, and those guys know that Travis has a tons of ability, which is going to make those guys even better. It's going to make those guys work even harder to keep their position and also keep their playing time. They know that Travis is going to come, and practice at a high level, and they know he's going to play at a high level. So it's been really, really good to have him in the room. But the thing that's refreshing is those other guys, Jack, Austin, and Kurt, are really, really helping him, develop. When he first got here, and now today you see those guys in the lunchroom. They're always together, including Hickman. Those guys are really, really close, and they want each other to be great, and it's really, really going to improve our room as far as the competition.
Were you a little reluctant to let Chris in the wide receiver room? I know it's what's best for the team right now, but some of his blocking and probably athleticism that he brings to your room, that takes a hit.
Well, he's a dual guy. He's always going to be that for us here at Nebraska. He's going to play some receivers, going to play some tight end. He's going to play a lot of different places for us, and he's talented enough. He's physical enough. It's just making sure that he gets enough reps at each position is the biggest thing right now. I want him to understand that that tight end, there's some certain things that he's going to have to continue to work on, but I want him to really concentrate right now on being a receiver, and as a tight end being able to sparely, I'll grab him when I need him, as far as practice and some of the individual things. And Coach Lubick and I, we work really well with that.
Does Vokolek need an acclimation period? Does he need some time before he's a major factor, or is he ready?
No, he's an older kid, so I think we've ironed out most of his flaws since he's been here. It just now is just getting him more comfortable with, the quarterbacks, being able to work with those guys. Then I mentioned earlier about being able to work in communication with the offensive tackles. There's a lot of different calls that we have to make. We have to be on the same page with those guys up front. That's the biggest thing. Those other guys kind of know and communicate well as far as what we're trying to get accomplished there. The biggest thing for him is really, really the small details of communication up front, and then also, in the passing game.
How's his speed?
I haven't judged him, but he looks fast enough for me. So a big kid like that, I don't know, what he runs, but he runs well enough for me, and he's been able to run well enough for me since he arrived here.
I'm just trying to get a feel for him. Is he more of a blocker or a receiver? What kind of tight end am I? What should we expect?
I expect him to be a complete tight end. He's really improved on his blocking. That was his weakness when he first got here. Yeah, that was his weakness. He's always been a natural pass catcher. Just detailing some of the things techniques up front, with the offensive line, working with those guys, stepping in the right direction. I mentioned earlier that he came to us exclusively in a right-handed stance, being on the left side of the ball. line of scrimmage, that doesn't equate to being able to step at the correct landmark in our blocks on all the different blocks that we have. So that's one of the things we polished up with him. We balanced him up a little bit more in his stance, in his three-point stance on the line of scrimmage, and has put him in a position where when he does block people now, he's more dominant than what he's doing there. So really excited to see where he goes.
Where did you ask Austin Allen to make improvements?
Really, I asked all those guys to make improvements on everything related to their position. And it started really with the strength levels, particularly with Austin. Last year, his landmarks of striking people were perfect. His footwork was perfect. So the biggest thing for him is now to improve on his strength levels. He really was the one guy that was a technician last year as far as his footwork. Based on the film that I watched, he surpassed Jack a little bit more on as far as his fundamentals of technique, as far as reaching people, drive blocking at the right location. And then his biggest thing was when he got to that point, sometimes he kind of fell off a little bit far because he didn't have the strength levels to finish people off. So those are the areas that I want him to improve on and continue to hone in obviously on his pass catching ability.
How's Jack's strength in that regard?
Jack's always been one of the strongest guys. I think Travis may have surpassed him a little bit now in the weight room, but Jack's, like I said earlier, he's one of the guys that's really, really improved in his route running. I thought last year he took a step back, as far as his landmarks, where he placed his hands, in his blocking scheme. That's one of the things we're going to continue to work on this spring with him.
How can you help get more targets for your guys in the red zone this year?
We're looking forward to it. I know Coach Lubick has done a lot of research there, and I've done a lot of research this off season there, and we're going to continue to research a little bit more. And we revamped our practice schedule where we're going to have some days where we work on it. You get what you work on, so there's some situational practice. That's where Coach Frost has kind of grown a little bit in his development. He knows that those areas we're weak in, so we're going to spend some days just on working on red zone. Some days we're working on third down execution. So there's some of the things that we saw and that we need to change on how our approach. So obviously the tight ends, we're going to do some things there to try to get those guys the ball a little bit more down in the red zone.
How big is it to recruit a tight end this year? Since you didn't take one last year, you have some upperclassmen that are going to be graduating. Is that an area of emphasis?
That's a huge selling point for me. I know, in recruiting, that I could sell now that, hey, wherever we sign, is going to have a great opportunity to come into play because we're so top heavy right now at that position. So it's a good place to be in.
People have been receptive to that?
Yeah, I think recruiting is going really well across the board at all positions, particularly at that one, because I spend most of my time with that particular position, and really excited about some of the guys that we're recruiting there.
Do you feel like you're finally getting ahead in recruiting? I know when you guys got here, you were playing catch-up, it seemed like, for the first couple of cycles.
Yeah, this is the first year we've actually really watched some 22s and being able to evaluate some of those guys. But I have a great grasp of the 21 class across the board at the tight end and across in my area, Florida, Georgia. And I've really started to look at some of the 22s across at the tight end position and also in my area in Georgia and Florida.
Thank you, Sean.
All right, no problem.